Alex had never actually watched the 90s TV series of that name, nor was she old enough to have plucked the phrase from the 50s. However, she often sang it out when she walked in the door, because it was what her parents used to do, and it had usually made them laugh, or at least smile. It generally had the same effect on Jason, but not this evening apparently, because he didn't seem to be at home. Unless he was in the garden, braving another attempt at putting the new shed together. It was going to be hard to get anything as polite as a smile out of him if that was the case. In spite of him being a fully qualified builder, his last effort had ended with a hammer boomeranging off the back wall of the house, while he performed a weird sort of Friday prayers next to the compost heap. Since then, the offending shed parts had been banished from sight, and were quite likely, Alex suspected, to stay that way, until they were ready to behave like the reasonable, easily assembled components they were supposed to be, according to the website they'd ordered them from. Dropping her heavy work bag and grey denim jacket at the foot of the stairs, she quickly checked the time on her watch and groaned inwardly to see how late it was already. She had less than an hour to shower, change, and grab a snack before needing to head out again. After the day she'd just had, she wouldn't have minded simply crashing in front of the TV for the rest of the evening, or outside on the patio in their smart new lounges with a bottle of half-decent wine. On the other hand, she was excited about tonight. So excited, in fact, that merely thinking about what lay in store was enough to dispel her exhaustion and infuse her with so many exhilarating waves of energy that she could sing, dance, even turn cartwheels across the lawn if required. That would have given old Millie Case a bit of a chuckle, if she'd still been in the cottage next door. Sadly, Millie had been moved to a care home a few weeks ago, her Alzheimer's making it impossible for her to carry on living alone. Quickly adding a visit to Millie to her list of must-dos at the weekend, Alex entered the kitchen to find it empty. However, both top and bottom halves of the stable door were open to the patio, and the buzz and roar of the lawnmower careering up and down the back garden explained why Jason hadn't heard her come in. Inhaling the delicious scent of freshly mown grass, she was about to go and commend his manly horticultural skills when the phone on the dresser started to ring. Tucking the receiver under her chin, she opened the fridge to take out some wine. "Hi, the vicarage," she answered. Though the house no longer belonged to the church, it had retained its name since her father, the rector, had bought it, and its position of splendid isolation at the top end of the village, with Millie's cottage attached, made it one of the area's more desirable homes. Not that it was particularly large or well modernised. In fact, it could boast none of the grandeur of most renovated vicarages around the country. It was the views that made it so sought after, both out across the open fields behind, and down over the random sprawl of village rooftops in front. Alex was always mindful of how lucky she was to be living here, now that her parents had gone, but knew that the day would soon come when Gabby would want to sell. What was she going to do then, on her paltry salary? No time to think about it now. "Hi, Alex, is that you?" a voice demanded from the other end of the line. "Yes, it's me," Alex replied, gliding effortlessly into her evening persona of joint founder, director, producer of the Mulgrove Village Players. Alex, the child protection worker, would fall away magically when she shook out her hair and removed her specs. Or so she liked to think. In reality, the problems of the day never really went away. They simply went off backstage for a while, very often to work themselves up into something superbly melodramatic, ready for a middle-of-the-night session when she was unable to sleep. "How are you, Hayley?" she asked chirpily. "Oh, you knew it was me!" Hayley gushed delightedly. Alex couldn't help but smile. Hayley was the most self-effacing writer with talent she'd ever come across. Not that she'd come across many writers, but there had been a few. "Is everything okay?" she asked, half filling a glass with perfectly chilled Chardonnay. A sudden cloud threatened. "Please don't tell me you can't make it tonight." "Oh, no, Hayley cried hastily. "I mean, yes, of course I'll be there. I'd never let you down. You know that. I was just checking to make sure I have the time right. 7:30 at the village hall."